Hi, today I'm in conversation with Sunita Iyer, and it's a very interesting background to Sunita, which I'm going to leave to her to talk about. And Sunita is at the moment in Princeton, and that's where she's talking to me from. Thank you so much for waking up this early to have this conversation with me, although it looks like a gorgeous day when I look out of your window. But anyway, so thank you so much. And I'm really, really looking forward to this conversation. So, Sunita, before we, get into AKANSHA and how, stuff around it, just a little background to you would be interesting.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for having me. And it's definitely not early. It's lovely out here. It's going to be a scorching 100 degrees. So I'm looking forward to it as much as I born and raised in Mumbai, Bombay back then. We bring on the heat. We love it. Yes, I'm in Princeton in New Jersey in the US. Been here for a long time. Came from Bombay into the US and has been a couple of cities and then finally settled in here. A little background to what you were talking about, Sunita is really a pet name, which is a calling name given to me by family and close uncles and aunts. Vishal is really my given birth name, but that was something that was an adapted name from Vishalakshi, which was the family deity. My parents thought it was old-fashioned and they remodeled it to make it Vishal. So really multiple names, that's really where it come from.
But did you ever get a reaction? Because Vishal in India is normally and generally a male name. So, I was confused as well, and which is why I did ask you before we started the conversation. I'm sure you would have got that a lot growing up.
It's funny. It was quite gender neutral when my parents gave that name because it wasn't a very popular name. And I'm aging myself now. When I was born back in the 70s. Growing up, I never had any such references. It was really much later in life when it started becoming a popular boy's name that call center calls always throws them off. They ask for Vishal. Is Vishal there? I'm like, yeah, this is Vishal. No, we want to talk to Vishal. I said, no, this is Miss Vishal.
Yeah, but I guess you get used to it. So anyways, I'm going to call you Sunita because I guess that's what we'll go with. So Sunita, how did your association with AKANSHA, how and when did it begin?
So AKANSHA really came into our lives through my sister-in-law, Chitra, who works with AKANSHA. And back when my kids were little, she one day in the summer, we would visit India every summer. The kids were there with us, and she was going for a fun weekend paint workshop that they were doing. And she said, come, let me take both of them. And they went and they had a blast. It was one of those paint the walls murals that the AKANSHA kids were doing, and my kids were integrated. They were part of it, and they had such a blast. And that's when our curiosity about it started, and we got to know more about the work that they do. The kids had already had a flavor with it, and then we wanted more, and we started going back to volunteer. This, I would say, was probably 10 years ago. I lost track of time. And we volunteered from then on every summer growing up. The kids just enjoyed being in classrooms with other peers their age, and helped being helpers in classrooms with the teachers and just, doing things around. And then we got involved as volunteers as well. From there, it was just a natural progression. You just fall in love with the work that they do instantly. And the support started back then. So a couple of years ago, that's how it really all started.
So what kind of support are you kind of providing to AKANSHA?
We're, we in the US about 5 years ago, 5 or 6, I lose track. I think it was 5 years ago when they started a chapter for providing fundraising facilities, to really expose the cause to a network of people here. And really it was an advocacy group that wanted to get people to know the kind of work AKANSHA was doing, the difference they were making. That's when it was more of a formalized relationship where it was a philanthropic relationship. We wanted to, until that point, it was really more of a charitable cause that we were giving to. And then it started into a team of people that were dedicated towards making a difference in a much larger term, in a long term. There was a board that got together. There was a core group of donors that were identified that wanted to do this as a philanthropic association, and that's where we come into. We look at it as a long-term relationship which wants to end the whole poverty and education relationship that India has, where education is the only way out to cut the chain of poverty.
Yeah.
So that's really where it all started, and we're so happy that there's a growing interest in it. We constantly have people day in and day out that we meet, that we present the organization to, and they're super excited once they know the kind of work that they do.
So are you also involved in any other foundations back in India that are connected with education for the lower income communities, or it's just AKANSHA?
No, so we're privileged to be able to lend a hand. So we're always open to any education organizations and there's so many of them that's doing fantastic work. So we're always there to lend a hand. AKANSHA really stays super close to our heart, and we do help out from time to time with a lot of other organizations, but AKANSHA really stays the one that's really close to our heart.
Yeah, I have talked to Sejal and Vidya. So I've got kind of a sense of what happens in the US in terms of fundraising and for AKANSHA. And I think it's because US has such a large diaspora as well. And, and everyone is looking at giving back in some way or the other, because at the end of the day, India is home for a lot of people, even though they may be living outside of India. So I can understand that there is this sense of wanting to contribute in some way. And I think AKANSHA is doing a phenomenal job with the way they're expanding. So, they're not they're looking outside the box, and they've got all these schools and how they put their curriculum in. And now I was talking to the CEO, and he mentioned how the art program is actually now it's gone outside of the AKANSHA schools. It's being kind of provided to other schools as well. So I think the vision is very, very forward, and the focus is change through education, which is what kind of got me excited. And I thought about AKANSHA. I read and know enough about AKANSHA, and that's how I said, no, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. I want to talk to people. And through my podcast series and that platform, just try and reach out to people. I mean, you're doing, everyone's contributing, right? And this is my way of, I guess, contributing, because then I'm able to, through this platform, create even more awareness about AKANSHA. So that's where I am with AKANSHA. I understand that you just mentioned that you've moved to London. Are you in the process of moving to London? So is there a chapter in the UK as well for AKANSHA?
No, there isn't. So yes, we are moving, in the process of moving. We moved a couple months ago, and we're, London's such a lovely city, but we did realize that there is no chapter in London, or Europe for that reason. So we're super excited about having to expand the circle of influence, to be able to bring in more people into this cause. So that is something that we've been under talks with Sejal, and hopefully in the coming months we will have a few things that we could do to start spreading the word about the work in London. We're planning to have a small group of people in our circle, open it up to them, bring the works to them, show them what AKANSHA is doing. That way, AKANSHA has been around for many years, but it's so little that it's just silent groundwork that they do. It's just solid work that goes down behind the scenes that a lot of people don't get to hear. So it's really word of mouth, and until you show people what work goes on day in and day out, they have no idea. So we're looking forward to spread that word around to as many people as there are.
And do you think, like in the US, there is now a program in place where AKANSHA alumni are getting scholarships to attend university or colleges in the US? Do you think, or even schools outside, like Singapore, for example? I spoke to one of the students who's just graduated from Minnesota, who went to Armenia, UWC Armenia. So is it something that you, as a cohort, is also looking at replicating in the UK? Is that something that is possible to happen? So then the students, instead of coming to the US, sort of expand and are able to, for further studies, go to UK or, some countries in Europe. Is that something that is being thought about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're, US cohort has done such wonderful work, right from everything that you said, doing alumni support, giving alumni support, young professionals network. There's been multiple things that have finally taken shape in the last couple of years and has been formalized. So we're going to use everything that we learned from the US back to UK, and I see no reason why that cannot be replicated. We have all of this framework that we already have existing here. We're going to try and replicate it as much as we can, as much as the system will allow us to do. So for sure, that is in the works. Right from fundraising to alumni being incorporated into the education system there, even the work culture, into the work situation there. So yes, hopefully all of that can happen once we start getting it off the ground.
So how much of your time and involvement do you have at the moment with AKANSHA, and what do you foresee? Because it's absolutely a very new kind of territory, right? In a sense, the UK and it opens up to Europe as well. So at the moment, how much involvement do you have with AKANSHA, and what do you foresee in the future?
I would say it's really whatever is required. Shankar and I are always there for anything and everything that goes on with AKANSHA. We find the time in our schedules to be able to fit that in, because it's just very, very satisfying for us to be able to see AKANSHA for this long, and having been associated with it and seen it grow, and just seeing the effect it has on the children. You know, right from seeing some of these kids back from like 8th and 9th grade up to today being these young, confident professionals in whatever that they're doing. There is a sense of pride that one feels, and I will admit that it's completely selfish. We're available for anything and everything that goes on with AKANSHA. So it's really a question of how we can weave it into our schedules. And I find that that's never a problem, because when it comes to something that's so gratifying, and when you see the kind of work that goes on and what effect it has, you know, you don't have a choice. You just do whatever you can in whatever capacity and whatever time that's available. You just try and fit it in. So
Yes.
I'm hoping to do the same in London as well. I know London's a new city for us. We've never been there. It's brand new. So along with getting to know the place, we're hoping that this will just be an organic thing that will go with us into growing that ground up as well. So the answer to your question, whatever time I have, we're willing to be in it.
Okay, that's yeah. I mean, that I think when you believe in the cause, and over the years you've seen the change, and you've seen the progress, and like you mentioned earlier, you've seen the back end work, which is on a continuous basis, working towards finding or seeing the change happen. I mean, I can understand how passionate you would be about the cause, and a lot of other people who are involved as well. So yeah, no, it's very, and what I understand is that you know, this whole school model is now going to be extended to within Maharashtra to I think Nasik and Nagpur, and you know, so it's getting quite extensive, and I do believe that the leadership team is just so driven. And now I've spoken to a few of them, and I do believe that they will make it happen. And I also think that the students are so impacted from in a positive way from this whole system of education, and how I've spoken to some of them for the series, and they are just so inspiring. You know?
It's constantly there's I can tell you stories about works on the ground, you know, and you asked me about my involvement of time, and there's something that I constantly go back to. One of the schools in Pune that we were visiting, and there was a story that stuck in my mind, was about a school leader who, it was, you know, it was 10th standard. I think it was March. It was end of 10th standard. It was examination time. It was SSC examinations. And we know how important that is to the end of a school cycle for a child. I think one of the students, you know, was having a hard time having to go through the prep work and all of that. They had an examination center that they had to get to. And apparently the teacher knew the kind of struggle that kid was going through. She followed through with him until the day of the examination. And at some point, what happened was the kid wasn't able to get to the examination hall because of his personal circumstances at home. She went to his house, picked him up, and brought him home and housed him at her house for the entirety of the examination, because she wanted to make sure that the child was getting to school for the examination hall on time. She wanted to make sure that the child was fed and had the right circumstances to be able to study. And all this was beyond, above and beyond the day's work at a school. So most, I would say all of AKANSHA faculty and staff and everybody that works, social workers that work behind the scene, their job doesn't end at 3 o'clock when the school leaves. It's a 24/7. It just goes on and on. And when I look at that, you know, when we look at our days and we look at our times, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to put this to the next day, that constantly keeps coming up to my mind. It's like, if somebody can do it to that level where they're completely in it, it doesn't matter what's happening in their day, I'm sure I can find some time to be able to give.
Yeah.
And this is one of the stories that I can give you. There are so many of them that come up to my mind, that there's constantly work that's going on in the background that nobody's asked for, but everybody jumps in to be able to fix it. There's nothing that is, oh, this is just school, this is beyond school relationship and I can't touch this. Nothing. There's absolutely nothing. So no amount of time and effort that you put in is enough. So that is something that we always go back to.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because I think, and that's what makes the whole machinery work, right? Every individual involved has to give it that 110% in order for it to work. So, yeah, no, that's amazing, and I'm so excited to see what you know, what will happen in the UK. It may take a few months or even a year, but the whole UK chapter, and I think it will just open up a lot more avenues for the students, and that's quite interesting, and I'm going to follow that story pretty closely. Thank you so much, Sunita. Is there anything else that, you know, in terms of what you would like from your perspective for people? I know you've said a lot, but, you know, for people to know and get involved with AKANSHA the way you have, is there anything that you would add, you know, you'd like to add on?
You know, AKANSHA really speaks for itself. There isn't really much one needs to do other than just follow them. You know, just, I would tell the listeners to go look up AKANSHA. Saurabh and his team at AKANSHA, there's so much good work that goes on. I really don't have to do much except that, you know, just go follow them. And you don't even have to do anything or support. I promise it will compel you to lend a hand in whatever way you can, whether it is just letting somebody else know about the good work that they're doing, or put in your time, or go volunteer at a school, you know, and just experience a day in their lives. And I'm sure you will be moved by the kind of work that they do. So really just follow them, follow their work, look them up, is all I will say.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are going to hear you. Thank you so much, Sunita. It's just been wonderful. Good luck with your move, and probably see you, I don't know, in Jersey or in London, who knows? The world is really, really small. So thank you once again. And it was fun talking to you.
Lovely talking to you. Thank you for covering us. You have a lovely time as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Sunita.